The airport cafe buzzed with tired travelers, crying babies, rolling suitcases, and delayed flight announcements echoing through the terminal. Sarah tightened her grip on her worn handbag as her 7-year-old daughter, Lily, quietly colored on a small notebook with a box of half-used crayons. She checked her purse once more, hoping she had counted wrong. She hadn't. There was only enough money left for one sandwich, and she planned to split it between herself and Lily. Just then, a tall man in an expensive tailored suit approached their table. 2 security guards stopped a respectful distance behind him, as curious eyes followed his every step. There were plenty of empty seats around the cafe, yet he looked directly at Sarah and asked in a calm voice, "Excuse me, can I sit with you?" Sarah blinked in surprise. "Of course," she replied politely, sliding Lily's backpack aside to make room. The man smiled warmly as he sat down. He introduced himself simply as Daniel, never mentioning that he was one of the country's most successful billionaires. Sarah recognized his face only after a few moments, but she couldn't understand why someone like him would choose to sit beside an exhausted single mother. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Lily looked up from her drawing and shyly held out a picture of a rainbow. "Do you like it?" she asked. Daniel smiled, genuinely impressed. "I love it. It reminds me that even after the darkest storms, beautiful things can appear." Sarah smiled at her daughter before apologizing. "I'm sorry if she's bothering you." "Not at all," Daniel replied. "She reminds me of someone who believed there was always hope." As they continued talking, Daniel couldn't shake the strange feeling growing inside him. Sarah's gentle voice, her kindness toward Lily, even the way she smiled despite obvious hardship, felt strangely familiar. Then, as she reached for her coffee cup, he noticed a small scar near her wrist. His heart skipped. Years ago, after surviving a rare blood disease, he had read every page of his medical records. One detail had always stayed with him. The anonymous donor had received a tiny scar during the bone marrow donation procedure in exactly that area. It couldn't be, could it? Trying not to alarm her, Daniel casually asked, "Have you always lived nearby?" Sarah laughed softly. "Not always. Life has moved us around quite a bit." "Were you ever involved in charity work?" She thought for a moment. "Nothing special. I've always believed that if you can help someone, you should. Years ago, I responded to a hospital appeal asking for volunteers. I honestly don't remember much about it anymore." Daniel felt chills run down his spine. For years, he had searched for the anonymous stranger who had saved his life. Every legal request had been denied because the donor wished to remain anonymous, and hospital privacy rules protected both parties. Could fate really have brought them together in an airport cafe? When Sarah excused herself to buy a bottle of water for Lily, Daniel quietly stepped aside and called his longtime physician. "I think I've found her," he whispered. The doctor was silent for several seconds. "What makes you think that?" Daniel described everything: the scar, her age, the volunteer program she mentioned. The doctor sighed. "Some regulations have changed recently. If both parties agree, I may finally be able to confirm it." Daniel barely slept that night. Days later, the doctor called him back. The records match. Daniel closed his eyes. It was Sarah, the woman who had quietly shared a table with him, the struggling single mother worrying about buying lunch, was the person who had given him a second chance at life. Without her, none of his businesses would have existed. Thousands of employees would never have had jobs. Countless charities he later funded would never have opened their doors. One selfless decision from a complete stranger had changed the course of his entire life. Daniel asked for Sarah's address. A week later, he stood outside a modest apartment building, carrying nothing more than a small bouquet of flowers. Sarah opened the door, surprised to see him. "Daniel? I hope I'm not interrupting." She invited him inside, embarrassed by the tiny apartment and the peeling paint on the walls. Lily ran over excitedly. "It's the airport man." Daniel laughed before turning back to Sarah. I owe you something I've waited years to say. She looked confused. What do you mean? He gently handed her an old medical file. She glanced through it until one date caught her attention. Suddenly she remembered. Years ago, after seeing an online appeal for a patient desperately needing a matching donor, she had volunteered without hesitation. After the procedure, she had gone back to work the very next week, never expecting to know whether the patient survived. She looked up at Daniel, her eyes widening. No, he nodded. You saved my life. Sarah covered her mouth in disbelief. I had no idea it was you. You weren't supposed to know, Daniel replied. But because of you, I lived long enough to build everything I have today. Tears filled Sarah's eyes. I don't need a reward, she whispered. Knowing someone got another chance is enough. Daniel smiled. I know, that's exactly why you deserve one. Over the following months, he quietly paid off every debt Sarah had been carrying. He established a trust fund for Lily's education, so she would never have to abandon her dreams because of money. Most importantly, he invited Sarah to lead a new charitable foundation dedicated to helping struggling single parents rebuild their lives with dignity. At first, Sarah hesitated. I've never run a foundation. Daniel smiled. You've been leading with kindness your entire life. The paperwork can be taught. Compassion can't. Years passed, and together they transformed thousands of lives. Families found homes. Children received scholarships. Parents were given opportunities instead of pity. People often praised Daniel for his generosity, but he always corrected them. If you want to know where this all began, he would say, it started with a woman who gave a part of herself to save someone she would never meet. Sarah never considered herself a hero. She was simply someone who believed kindness didn't need applause. As for Daniel, every time he walked into an airport café, he remembered the day he asked one simple question that uncovered the greatest miracle of his life. Can I sit with you? Sometimes the smallest conversations reveal the biggest blessings, and sometimes the good you do without expecting recognition returns in ways you could never imagine. If Sarah's incredible act of kindness and Daniel's unforgettable discovery touched your heart, let us know in the comments. Do you believe one selfless decision can change a stranger's life forever? If you enjoyed this story, please like this video, share it with your family and friends, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another inspiring story. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.